Let's just jump right into it today, because we are unpacking the spectacle, the glamour, and of course, the absolute chaos of the 2026 Met Gala. Now, you might be wondering, why should we care about an ultra-exclusive party that we definitely weren't invited to? Well, because this year's theme was Fashion is Art. It's an incredibly broad concept, and it gave the world's biggest stars the green light to push the absolute boundaries of what clothing can actually be. So we're going to look at the sheer artistry on display, the heavy hitters who just completely threw the rulebook out the window, and the highly calculated PR moves happening right beneath the surface. It really is a masterclass in fashion, and honestly, an even bigger masterclass in public relations.
Okay, let's dive into this. The Met Gala is universally known as fashion's biggest night, right? But this year, it turned into this massive melting pot where genuine artistic expression just totally blurred together with highly coordinated family branding and strategic PR. I mean, some guests leaned all the way into the museum exhibition vibe. They treated themselves as literal walking canvases, sacrificing any ounce of comfort for pure theatricality. And others, well, they used the world's most famous red carpet to clean up messy internet drama or make some very pointed political statements. It was one of those nights where the clothes were loud, sure, but the hidden agendas, those were arguably much louder.
Section 1. Decoding the dress code. When the theme is essentially treating fashion as a masterpiece, the interpretations are going to be all over the map. Take Emma Chamberlain. She wasn't just wearing a dress, it looked practically painted onto her body. She fully became the art itself, which takes a massive amount of commitment. But on the flip side, we have Anna Wintour, the Empress of Fashion, who actually sparked a huge debate. She showed up in something that looked incredibly similar to her signature Chanel coats from past years. She pretty much proved that if you're at the very top of the industry, your personal uniform completely trumps any event theme.
Now, one of the absolute standout looks of the night came from Sabrina Carpenter. She essentially wore cinema. Fresh off her huge Coachella sets, she collaborated with Jonathan Anderson at Dior to create this jaw-dropping dress. And the craziest part is the construction. It's actually fabricated out of physical, real film strips from the classic Audrey Hepburn movie, Sabrina. It's just a brilliant example of taking a broad theme, like fashion is art, and translating it into a literal, wearable homage to a totally different medium. The way that celluloid caught the camera flashes was literally brilliant.
Section 2. The reality royalty. Because, let's be honest, you simply cannot talk about a modern Met Gala without bringing up the Kardashian-Jenner family. And this year, their unified presence absolutely dominated the red carpet with some really structural and honestly very polarizing artistic choices.
On one end of the spectrum, you've got Kylie, Kendall, and Kim all coordinating in these extremely rigid, molded body plates. They almost look like they were actively peeling away from their skin. The internet, as you can imagine, had an absolute field day comparing them to sci-fi armor. But then, there's Kris Jenner. She completely ditched her usual boxy, shoulder-padded power suits for this incredibly relaxed, flowing, almost moo-moo style fit. Combined with some clearly fresh facial touch-ups, she looked more radiant and genuinely comfortable than she has in years. It was a total subversion of what we usually expect from her.
To actually get what was going on with those rigid body plates, we have to look at Kim's explanation. She said she collaborated directly with artist Alan Jones. They basically used body plate molds that Jones started making way back in the 1960s, and then he painted directly on top of the piece Kim wore down the carpet. The public reaction was incredibly divided on this. People were asking, is this a cheap-looking costume, or is it a brilliant piece of avant-garde history resurrected for one night? Whatever your take is on the aesthetic, you can't deny it rigidly stuck to the concept of wearable art.
Section 3. Theatrical and sculptural fashion. Now, what's really interesting about this next group is that they decided wearing a beautiful dress just wasn't enough. They wanted to turn those iconic stairs into a stage for performance art.
Take Katy Perry. She showed up in a Stella McCartney design featuring a completely faceless mask. It was a literal blank canvas, and it sparked this immediate, intense commentary about AI and the loss of human identity in modern art. It was deeply unsettling, but in the best way possible. Right beside her, you have Heidi Klum, who we all know for her extreme Halloween costumes. She bypassed traditional glamour entirely and arrived dressed as a full-blown, literal stone statue. For her, it wasn't about looking classically beautiful, it was entirely about shock value and making a visual impact that absolutely no one else would dare attempt.
Benito, Bad Bunny, also leaned heavily into the theatrical side of things. When someone asked him how long his intense aging makeup took to apply, he just quipped, 53 years. He made the point that the Met Gala is the perfect day to express yourself completely differently. By artificially aging himself into an older guy with deep wrinkles and graying hair, he completely subverted the usual expectation of pristine, youthful glamour that's almost always demanded of male guests.
Then we have Doja Cat. She always brings a level of theatrical controversy. And this time, she walked the entire red carpet completely barefoot. She said the choice signified humanness and being grounded. But think about the visual paradox here for a second. It's this profound, almost spiritual statement about stripping away excess and connecting to the earth, taking place at an elitist, hyper-exclusive gala literally sponsored by Amazon and Jeff Bezos. It sparked a massive debate about the sheer irony of performing extreme humility while surrounded by unimaginable wealth.
Section 4. Breaking the Gala Rules. The Met Gala has some really strict, ironclad guidelines. But as you'll see when you reach a certain echelon of global fame, those rules just kind of become suggestions.
The baseline expectation at the Met is extravagant, almost painful-looking glamour. But Hailey Bieber completely ignored that pressure. Instead, she went with a stunning, beautifully draped blue Yves Saint Laurent piece that actually looked comfortable. It was this moment of quiet luxury in a sea of screaming art pieces. Contrast that with Cardi B, who brought her dependable, show-stopping flair in an absolutely massive, gravity-defying gown that took up so much physical space on the carpet she literally needed handlers just to help her walk. Two absolute queens of the carpet made their own rules too. Rihanna arrived in this massive, sweeping coat, but what really went viral was how famously humble and polite she was with the stressed-out security team, which is something you almost never see in that high-anxiety environment. And then there's Beyoncé. The Met Gala has a notoriously strict 18 and older rule. Yet Beyoncé walked the carpet holding hands with her 14-year-old daughter, Blue Ivy. It basically proves the fundamental truth of the entertainment industry. When you are Beyoncé, the traditional rules simply do not apply.
Beyoncé's presence was incredible, not just because she brought blue, but because of her core message. She was wearing a custom Olivia Rousting look, and she stated her goal was to celebrate all different types of bodies: juicy, curvy, thin, tall, whatever natural form you have. Plus, she framed the whole night around the joy of experiencing this surreal event directly through the eyes of her teenage daughter. It's a great reminder that even at the very top of exclusive fashion, the most impactful statements are usually the deeply personal ones.
Let's move to Section 5, calculated PR and protests, and see how this builds from fashion into the stark reality of strategic public relations and the real-world frictions surrounding an event this size.
For an absolute masterclass in PR timing, we have to talk about Blake Lively. She'd been embroiled in this heavy legal friction and internet drama with her It Ends With Us co-star Justin Baldoni for months. Well, just hours before the Met Gala, they finalize a lawsuit settlement and drop a joint statement. Then, that exact same evening, she steps out looking like a flawless, unbothered princess on the world's most photographed carpet. It is the ultimate Met Monday strategy. Stepping onto that carpet instantly washed her public image and shifted the entire media narrative in a matter of hours.
We also saw an incredible juxtaposition, with Lauren Sanchez making her gala debut. She wore a surprisingly simple dress, which the internet brutally dubbed Amazon Basics, while giving an earnest speech inside about fashion as a critical art form. But meanwhile, just outside the museum hedges, there were intense, aggressive protests aimed directly at Jeff Bezos, Amazon's labor practices, and global wealth inequality. The police had barricades up, and the sheer contrast between those insulated speeches inside and the raw, real-world anger right outside was staggering to witness.
So after looking at all of this, the incredible artistry, the intentionally broken rules, the carefully timed PR drops, we're left with a really fascinating question. On a night entirely defined by extreme wealth, calculated PR, and hyper-curated images, what is the true art on display? Is the real masterpiece the clothing crafted by these talented designers? Or is it the chaotic, incredibly well-managed spectacle of celebrity culture itself? Keep questioning the narratives behind the glamour, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.